Now, when I first started studying, right, and I started to like really grasp what was going on around me, he was already teaching and he was already teaching at his own capacity, right? They both were teaching. They both were experts in what they were talking about, right? But this is what I want people to realize, right? You see how he looks, right? He looks like an Arab, but he says he's a Moor. He looks like he's an Arab, but at one time he was saying he was a Moor. He got the Moroccan flag right here, right? And I wonder too, like, I wonder too, did he even know that they had a six-pointed star Moroccan flag and why he didn't go with that? He just stopped saying he was a Moor altogether and he went to Jesus Christ. He went the Jesus route. He went the Christian route, which is kind of unique in a sense because I feel like it would have been more fitting for him to do that. Um, or he could have just stayed strictly with Islam, right? But he didn't do that. He went the Christian route. But this is how they both look. They look like Janjaweed. And you see him right here, right? He looks like a Moor, but you can tell he's a mercenary with this particular tribe. He's a mercenary because it's not many of them who look like him, right? And they all kind of look like this guy. You see what I mean? Like he says he's a Moor, but when you look at him, you can tell he comes from this stock. Both of them, even this guy, right? They come from this stock right here, Janjaweed. Now, when you think of the Janjaweed, these are the people who are in Sudan, right? They're ethnically cleansing the southern part right now as we speak. They're going through and they're unaliving mass South Sudanese. They're unaliving them, right? Um, in some pockets of that particular country. So this is how they look. You know, this is how they look. Now you can't tell me he doesn't look just like him right here. They look 100% alike. 100% alike. So at some point when you talk about the people coming here to America and because you never really know where people are from until you like really speak to them and see if they're upfront and honest. You never know where they're from. Um, so obviously, right, he's probably never been to America. He's not from America. Um, but he's American. This guy right here, he's American. But this is what I kind of figured out, right? When you talk about, where people come from and, where they've been and, what their intentions are, right? You know, you got to really total it out and kind of see like what exactly am I looking at, right? You got to total it out. If he told me he was a Moor, I would not have believed him. I wouldn't have believed him. There's a lot of people who look like him who said they were Moors and they end up going the American Indian route. I know a few of them. I know a few of them. They said they was Moors and they stopped saying they were Moors and they went the American Indian route. They stopped proclaiming their nationality and they started to say they were Cherokee and whatever else tribe there is. Um, but you see how he looks. Now there's another particular group of people. These people right here. You see how he looks? him right here, he looks just like him. He looks just like him. So you never truly know who you're talking to when you're speaking to him. And that's just coincidentally, right? He doesn't like Burna Boy, so I'm thinking that he doesn't like Africans. And I'm looking at him, right? Me and him had a front, a front to front, if you will, one time, and he called me an African worshiper. So he doesn't like Africans at all either. So you got to understand the spirit behind when people say things, right? You diss Burna Boy, or you just like you don't like Africans because you call them worshiper, demonic worshipers and stuff like that. I'm gonna think you're a Janjaweed. You see what I'm saying? These are actual bloodlines. I don't think people understand this. And you look at him, right? His wife is very dark skinned, right? And she probably doesn't know these things, but I gotta be upfront, man. I just gotta be honest. I gotta be honest, man. These bloodlines run deep, and if you don't know who you are, like you probably never will. You probably never will. I'm telling you. Cause like it's no way that you can sit here and say that you don't come from these people when you look 100% like them. You see what I'm saying? So I'm questioning like no who I'm questioning like what is your stance on the South Sudanese? Like what is your stance on that? Like the RSF going, the rapid support forces going through that and unaliving so many of these people. And so if you don't know how the South Sudanese look, they're very dark skinned, very jet black. Let me see if I can get an image of them. Okay, these are the ones in the north. These are the ones in the north, and these are the ones in the south. These are the ones that's getting unalive. The ones right here. These are the ones that's getting unalive. So you can automatically decipher, well, why are they getting unalive and why they're the ones doing the attacking. You know what I mean? Like it's because they're fighting over the womb. They're fighting over what you would call the Mohabites. You know, they want to convert his woman to Arab. You know, and he just wants to be left alone, and he just wants to be a farmer. It's the same thing that's happening in America on a lower level, right? You got people trying to convert you to something, and and you got the other people just like, no, we don't want to go along with it. You see what I'm saying? If anything, right? When you talk about the Michael Jordans of the world, the Shaquille O'Neals of the world, the LeBron Jameses of the like LeBron James, he's not Shaquille O'Neal and he's not Michael Jordan. He's his own particular stock. He's his own particular stock. He looks Papua New Guinea if anything. He looks Somali if anything. LeBron James. When you talk about Shaquille O'Neal, Michael Jordan, um, Al Harrington, um, Travis Outlaw, and all these other guys, right? Think South Sudanese. Think South Sudanese. Think South Sudanese. When you talk about Jordan Poole, okay, you talk about them type of players. Think North Sudan. These phenotypes, these stocks, they come from somewhere. They come from somewhere. This just isn't some happenstance where you just pop up and think, okay, these are, just some new people do the admixture, like how they like to say, the dark skinned people are, right? They're ancient people and stuff like that. Nah, these are ancient bloodlines across the board. So it's been infighting and stuff like that, right? You see how these ladies are wearing traditional wear? They just want to be farmers and left alone, right? They want to convert them to Shiite and Sunni and whatever else sect of Islam that they have going. These are the people that's getting unalive. These people right here. These are the people in the remote areas. They're the ones that's being unalive. These are your Michael Jordans, your Shaquille O'Neals. You see what I'm saying? Your 607 Unks. These are them right here. You know? And right? This would be your Jordan Poole, okay? Your Gerald Greens. This would be them. You know what I mean? That would be them. And Derrick Rose, right? He's talking about the Moorish paradigm. He's into that, right? But when you think of Derrick Rose, right, you think of Oriental. You don't necessarily think of Moors, but he's teaching that. He's teaching more science to his friends, and he's teaching it. You see what I'm saying? So there's this thing where you got the Moabites, right? And you got these men, right? They're under attack. They're under attack. Their way of life is under attack. These will be close to the Jawa, the Sentinelese, the Angi, the Anch, the Adamanese, the Shilluk, the Nuar, the Dinka. These are these people. They don't believe in secularism. They don't believe in all these types of religions and stuff like that. They believe in a natural way of life. They believe in a proverbic type of life. Proverbic type of life. They believe in a proverbic type of life. You know? So that's what they're not telling us. That's what they're not telling us. So when you see these people, right, and you see that they don't have weapons and stuff like that, they may have spears, but they don't have weapons. They're out. That means that they don't have the funding, so there's no way that they can defend themselves, right? Um, when you talk about people coming in there with AK-47s and stuff like that, they're outmanned. Because so that's what I'm saying. Like when you think of African Americans, right? You got to think they stopped calling us Moors when it became prevalent who was here in the New World. When they became prevalent who was here, they stopped calling us Moors. They started calling us Indians and Negroes and colored, mulatto, and they started calling us all these different things. They thought this was Maori land. They thought this was only the Moors were here. They were surprised it was other people here due to admixtures. So when you see someone who looks like Derrick Rose, right, and he has a fez on, you got to think, does he know about the Oriental history? Because he's Oriental. Like Jordan Poole and Derrick Rose, and Anthony Edwards, them three do not have the same phenotypes. None of them share the same phenotypes. You got Jordan Poole, more Arab. Derrick Rose, more Oriental. Anthony Edwards, more Maury, or Moorish, if you will. You know what I mean? But when you look on the ancient emblem of America, right, you see people who look like Anthony Edwards. And Anthony Edwards, right, his father looks like these men, but I would think that his mother was probably like them. You know what I mean? Even though you take on the identity of your father. But if you look at the ancient emblem, they look just like Anthony Edwards. So you gotta wonder. You gotta wonder what is the idea behind saying that you're Moor or saying that you're an Arab? Like, what's the idea behind that? Because it's clear that he's not necessarily a Moor, he's an Arab. He's saying he's a Moor, but he's really an Arab. You know? And he's saying that he's a Christian, right? When his forefathers were probably what? Orthodox, Ethiopian, right? Eritrean, or Islamic, right? When you talk about Syrian, Turkish, he will fit that profile. But if you listen to a person long enough and you wonder, like, okay, what is this person? Like, what exactly is this person? And you'll start to see, like, it's not what you think. But that's probably why he became Christian. Um, it's probably why he became a Christian, because he probably figured out his real history. You know, because if I look at him and I see, like, okay, like, who could this person necessarily be? Then you'd be like, okay, he's either Christian or he's Islamic. You know. Then it starts to make sense. But the phenotypes do not fade. Once you are born, you got a print on your face and on your finger that tells the world who you are. You know, the biometrics do not fade at all. You might not look like no one to you, but trust me, if a person who is studious, if they look at you long enough, or they cross paths with you, they never saw you before, they'll know who you are. They'll know who you are. They'll know where your people are from. You know, like, someone might look at me and be like, okay, is he Igbo or is he Yoruba? And I may not even seen those people before, but someone would equate me with them. You know what I'm saying? Someone would equate me with them because I look like some of them. You know, some people would equate me with the Gambians. You know, or with the Chadic. They'll equate me with some of them. So, but you can't. You can't, like, these people right here. If I go to any particular area of the earth, right, and I'm just there, I don't know where I'm at, and I see people who look like this, I'm going to think I'm in South Sudan. Period. I'm going to think I'm in South Sudan. You know, these people are blue black, and they're tall and slender. You know, you see people who look like this on the south side of Chicago. Like, you can't mistake people identities. You know, even when you think about people who just got there to Chicago, right? And we're just speaking about Chicago for an example. The people that just come there, right? they think that they're going to become African American one day and stuff like that. Ultimately, they end up going back where they're from. You know, like people don't just stick around to stay. Like those people end up ultimately going back to where they're from. You know, or they keep an understanding of who they are. Right, they never forget who they are. You know, it's like you can grow up on the south side of Chicago with someone and you think they look like somebody. They don't know who those people are, right? Because they never cross paths. You know, but like if I'm looking at this guy right here, I'm going to think he's Orthodox because he has a beard. For some reason, I'm going to think he's Orthodox. You know, and like him right here, it's kind of like the same thing. Like I would think, he's Arab. Because he has a full mustache. Like I would think he's Arab. I wouldn't necessarily think he's a Moor. Like Wesley Snipes is a Moor. I wouldn't think he's a Moor. I would think like, okay, he fits the description of an Arab. You know, and that's just me using my simple sense. You know what I mean? Like what you would know as an Arab today, and what you would know as a Moor in the past. Like just using simple distinction. Like he looks Egyptian. You know what I'm saying? He looks Egyptian. Like he looks like he's from India too. Um, and you see how these people look, right? I could blend in with them, but it would probably like I would probably have to be there. You know what I'm saying? Just like the be under the sun and you know not necessarily take showers all the time. Like I can blend in with them very easily. I could blend in with them very easily. But these are the people, right, who get called Hamitic. And they get say like, oh, they're the curse. They're the cursed people of the Bible and stuff like Ham and Canaan. They were cursed. Like these people don't look cursed to me. They do not look cursed. I mean, think about it. How could you have an entire country to yourself, right? And you converse with people who look like you, and they would consider you cursed. Like I don't think that's the case. I don't think these people right here are cursed. You know, and it's a part of South Sudan, right? That's largely Christian. So these just aren't pagan worshipers. Like Devon Bay would say that they practice witchcraft. But a large part of South Sudan, right? They practice Christianity. So it's not what you think at all. It's not what you think. And it was they the film Avatar, right? It was made after them. The film Avatar, it was made after them. But when you think of Avatar, right, you also think of the Angi. That's why we like the Angi. You got the Angi, and because he looks Angi. You got the Angi and South Sudanese, right? I would think they share haplogroup M. I share haplogroup M with them. I would think they we all share haplogroup M, because M is coming right out of that Kenya area. So you got Uganda and Kenya. Like you got Ugandans who look South Sudanese. You got Kenyans who look South Sudanese. It all depends. And these are the people, right, who look just like Asians. So when you say like Chinese or something like that, they talk just like the Chinese. Like this particular lady right here, she probably talks just like the Chinese. Cause I know I heard a couple of them talk before. They talk just like Chinese. So when you think about where the Chinese come from, they come from South Sudan, South Sudan. You know, I'd rather live like this than any other way. This is the natural way of living. This is the natural way of living. Like you come into contact with people today, right? They'll think you gotta dress one certain way, you gotta dress this way. Like it's just it's just normal to them to dress up every day, right? Like they don't go outside without pants on. Like no one goes outside without garments on covering their phallus or their behind. Everybody does that every day. These people don't. They're not struck by that. They're not shamed to see their private parts or their body. This is the natural way of living. They're not using steroids to make their body appear a certain way. They're not doing any of that. This is who they are. This is who they are. So when you talk about South Sudan, this is actually the oldest. And look at these people right here. These people, right, they're dressed like Amazonians. So where do the Amazonians come from? She looks like Dow from Street Fighter. Or they got the large hoop earrings. You know what I'm saying? He got the feather coming from the head. Look, this is Amazonian. You see what I'm saying? This looked like me when I was like 7 years old, 6 years old. You know what I'm saying? Same hair texture. Come on, man. This is serious. That's why I be telling people like don't be so quick to start saying that you familiar with a person, you know a person when you ain't really study phenotypes. You know what I'm saying? Don't believe people when they say things. Don't believe like do your own research. Like do your own research on these things. Without question, you're gonna find out something different. You're gonna have questions pop up in your head and you're gonna be wondering if this person is thinking what you're thinking, but you don't want to say it. You see? It's just common. I'm telling you. Like these look like Maasai people, you know. Or it looks like they were mixing with the Maasai. I don't know if this is Dinka. I don't know who this is. I don't know. There's so many tribes in South Sudan. So many. So you got the main two, which is the Nawar and the Dinka, but it's so many tribes. And a cold part about, America has street signs. So when you look at the street signs, you can just look at the beginning of a letter and be like, okay, I know these people are related to these people. You know what I'm saying? And then you find out what region they're from, like, oh, that's Nigeria. Oh, that's Chad. Oh, that's Sierra Leone. You know what I'm saying? Then you figure it out from there. Like if I know someone grew up on Tallman, I'm going to think that, okay, these people are related to the South Sudanese because there's a turret in South Sudan, you know? And more than likely, it's often true. So, you know, that just goes along with learning alphabets. Yeah, this is crazy. So when as he gets older, right, he's going to get these, right. He's probably going to get these when he accomplished something in the village. When he accomplished something else, he's probably going to get these. You know, these bicep bands. You know, when he becomes chief, he's probably going to get this. You never know. You know, and all the people who are in the village, right? They have to admonish him. They have to look after him. They have to take care of him. They have to see that, it goes well. And this is how it's supposed to be in America, right? If you have a matriarch, you're supposed to have someone sitting over Donald Trump, right? And they're supposed to look a certain way, and they're supposed to have this in their head. That's how you connect and link yourself back to the families of the earth. So I don't know what people be talking about, man. Like it just like literally. If you say you're something, right? If you say you're something, if you say that you're this or you're that, right? If you say you're these things, why aren't you linking yourself back to Africa? Why aren't you linking yourself back to these people right here? If you say that you're these people here, when we know the real history. But you're saying, oh no, those people they're nobodies. They're nobodies important. Like, come on, man. And this is where people don't question. You know what I'm saying? That's why I be looking at people like I know people be agents, but I don't be saying nothing. I already know people be agents, but I don't be saying nothing. Like how you gonna cut yourself off from the root? Not the leaf, but you're gonna cut yourself off from the root. Like, come on, man. Every human being was created for a purpose on this earth. You're not supposed to alienate yourself from them. You know what I'm saying? It just doesn't make sense. Like a person from South Sudan to tell you in a second, because it happened to me. They'll tell you in a second, like, huh? No, everybody is created equal. They'll tell you that in a second. They will tell you that in a second. Someone their age will tell you that in a second. Everybody on earth is created equal. I don't know what you're talking about. You know? They'll tell you that in a second. So, I don't know. You know? You see these brothers right here? Got these red fezzes, these red barrettes on their head. You know? You don't see people who look like this normally, you know. If you see someone who looks like this, right, in the hood, you're gonna automatically start to question, you know, if you see someone this dark, you know what I'm saying? So I already know. They got these red tams on their head. You know, when you got a red tam on your head, that automatically represents sovereignty. That represents family. You know what I'm saying? Because like, not only do they wear red tams, right? The Chinese wear red tams. You got some guards within the Nigerian army that wear red tams, and they wear green tams as well. So like, you can't just say things and think it's gonna fly. Like, nah. You know, like how you diss in Nigeria, right? In Nigeria, like they're like the first of all families. You know what I'm saying? Like to inhabit Earth. So it doesn't make sense when people say the things that they say. That's why I don't take people seriously when they say some of the things that they say. I don't take them seriously. You know, I just don't. They hold the golden key to civilization. The golden key, they hold it. And then if you see something like this, right? He got his patch. You know he's war ready. You know he's war ready. Here go another one. You know what I mean? Like these aren't just simple men, right? These are not just simple men. They don't show you this stuff on American media. You know what I'm saying? Like they don't show this stuff. Like they don't, like you turn on WGN News, you turn on WGN News 9, like, you know what I'm saying? Like NBC, ABC, you turn on the news, they not gonna show you these people. They took an oath not to show you these people like this. You have to search, like you have to have an awakening. If no one tells you something like this one day, like you gotta search Africa and see what's going on. If you don't if you don't experience like an awakening moment and enlightenment, you're never gonna see this. Like literally, I've seen people all my life who just went day to day passing and they don't know anything about what's going on. They've never seen an image like this. They don't know it exists. You know what I'm saying? They just think black people are just on the corner drinking wine and they don't know these people hold parades. You know what I'm saying? Like they don't know these people have important. They don't know that they have important monarchy. They don't know it. They don't know it. So like this is serious. Like imagine how lonely you are like when you come into full knowledge of who you are, right? And you automatically have this image in your head and you know what Africa is, right? But you know you can't return or you can't go there because like you have so much responsibility in America. You know what I'm saying? You probably can be looking out to people that's younger than you, right? You know, you may be a single father or something like that, right? This is so much responsibility to have. To like know the truth. That's so much responsibility to have. You know? Like literally, these men, one of the men, he's probably gonna be the next person on the money over there. Um, but I know John Garang is already on the money. You know, because I have some South Sudanese notes. I have some South Sudanese pounds. He's on the money. So And he believed in racial purity. So I don't know what people be talking about. Like, we Moors and we Arabs. Like, I don't know what people be talking about when they say that. You know, 'cause that's the whole appointment, right? When you become a new nation, you have to move on. You have to leave the village. You don't stay and entangle yourself with this person or that person. No, you start your own nation. That's the whole thing about becoming a man. You don't stay behind. That's the whole point. So he's probably going to be the next person that's on the money, you know. But I don't really get it, like why it's not Sudan, because they're fighting. They want to run it the way that they want to run it, the two oppositions. It's really more than two oppositions, but the way that I look at it, I think it should just be one united front, and it should just be called Sudan. I don't think it should be South Sudan, East Sudan, West Sudan, North Sudan. I don't believe in that. I think it should just be called Sudan. But I understand why they have to do what they have to do, because it just goes back to that point I was just making, right? You don't want northern Arabs coming into your territory, right? Telling your women how to live and how to dress. You don't want that going on. This is why these men are holding diplomacy. So it makes sense to me. It makes sense to me. Um, okay, you see them, right? And that's what's so cold about it, right? You can have South Sudanese, they can look like Sierra Leoneans. You know, you just never know. You never know what you're going to get. You know, you just never know what you're going to get. And all these people hold a different phenotype. That's what's crazy. That's what's crazy about it. But let me head out, man. Great peace, Yakoki.